Welcome back to Fastball, where I tell you about a cheap and short game and if it's worth your money and your time in under 10 minutes. Let's begin. Anybody who knows my gaming tastes or has seen my video review on Metro Last Light will know that it's one of my favorite games of all time, and that I struggle to say much negative about it. But that game is a sequel, and today we're going to take a look at the game that started this beautiful little franchise, kind of. Rather than the original 2010 release, we're going to be playing the 2014 Redux edition, just like we did with Last Light, if only because that's the version people are going to be most likely to play in 2018 and beyond. To put it in simple terms, it's a stealth action game with heavy elements of both horror and inventory management, a la Resident Evil. I'll be frank, I hated the original release. It wasn't until my second time beating it on my Redux copy that I gained some appreciation for it. But to get it all out up front, I don't think it measures up to the sequel in many aspects, and bottom line, I prefer Last Light in almost every way. But let's talk specifics. The game takes place in the titular year of 2033, 20 years after the nuclear apocalypse, within the metro system beneath Moscow, as well as brief stints on the radioactive surface. What's left of humanity here made home in the tunnels, using the stations as makeshift towns and cities of varying sizes and infrastructures, and they've split into a multitude of factions including neo-Nazis, communists, bandits, and the mysterious Polish Rangers, protectors of mankind, and the few who will brave the wasteland to map new areas and gather supplies. One of said Rangers named Hunter has a run-in with the protagonist, Artyom, in the first chapter, and sets the story in motion. It's got one of those flash-forward prologues, which usually I'm not really a fan of because it's kind of played out, but it is really compelling in this instance, so I'll give it a pass. From there on, you'll sneak past droves of enemy soldiers, do combat with horrifying mutated monsters, and make vague moral decisions alongside a small yet very memorable cast of characters. A main selling point of the Redux version was the updated graphics, and yeah, I gotta say, this game looks damn good. The game's lighting is absolutely stellar. The environments are usually quite detailed and look pretty good, and besides their faces, the NPCs look just fine, and the monster models are fantastic too, and all of this put together helps the game's immersion leaps and bounds over the 2010 release. The cracks do show from time to time, but as a package, the visuals are excellent. The sound design is pretty much on par with Last Light. If anything, it's just lacking polish. Just like the second game, my favorite parts of the audio are the little details, like Artyom's breathing becoming labored as the filter on his gas mask clogs up, or the electrical hum of the night vision goggles. The voice acting is just alright, and the music gets the job done. No big standouts, really. Personally, I like to play with the original Russian voice acting with the English subtitles. It can definitely kill the immersion for some, but I've played through it enough times, and the quality of the original voice acting is magnitudes better.
Да это же жетон Хантера. Давай-ка я отведу тебя к мельнику. Ему все сам расскажешь.
Playing this on a GTX 1080, it boots up at the blink of an eye and runs smooth as butter. And unlike Last Light, I never had it crash to desktop during my playthrough. So let's talk gameplay. In the context of 2018, it pretty much plays like a clunkier, less streamlined Last Light. What do I mean by that? Well, the level design is definitely something that improved between games. It's not bad all the time, and even when the bad levels have branching paths and secrets to find, the fact that there are bad levels, and those of you who have played this know exactly which ones I'm talking about, that does kind of say something. The enemy AI also leaves a lot to be desired during stealth and combat alike. They swap between totally brain-dead and precognition with their pathfinding and accuracy on a whim. The combat-focused chapters can boil down to trial and error thanks to this. The game's main flaws are fundamental, such as huge difficulty spikes after long stretches of great flowing gameplay, terrible checkpoints, over-reliance on linearity, and intrusive cutscenes taking too much control from the player for too long at a time. But the framework is there, and it's good. Sneaking feels great with the well-implemented light and shadow detection system. Finding scavenged ammo and filters is rewarding, and you can't help but stop to catch your breath after an intense firefight. It really is compelling stuff, it's fun, and the gameplay is immersive. It's just bogged down by what I can only assume to be issues due to an inexperienced development team or them working on a very low budget. Metro 2033's only DLC was the addition of an extra difficulty mode, and personally, my favorite way to play, Ranger Hardcore mode. It totally disables the heads-up display, making the stealth harder, and severely limits how much ammunition and other supplies you'll find on your journey. This is the difficulty mode you're seeing in this footage. It really does make it feel as desperate as it should be lore-wise, and personally, I really love the extra challenge, though I definitely would not recommend it for a first-time playthrough. At the end of the day, this is a pretty good game that leads into a damn near perfect sequel. You don't have to play this one to get the full experience of Last Light, but you know what? I think the good does outweigh both the bad and the questionable in 2033, and it still is worth playing through. It can be really frustrating at times, but games with seriously good immersion are hard to come by, and even though it's not the most consistent, I still admire all the hard work and love that went into it. It goes on sale for like $7.50 all the time, and it's usually bundled with the Last Light Redux too. And one playthrough should clock in somewhere in the ballpark of 6 to 8, maybe 9 hours. Throw it on the wish list and fire it up next time you get burned out on your usual games. Thanks very much for watching, and until next time, have fun.